Good afternoon, Shakti Dharan. We have you today in our Vishwavahini TV chat session. Shakti Dharan is from Sydney. He's a playwright and many other things, and he has written a very interesting and a successful award-winning play called Counting and Cracking, and it is to be shown in Melbourne now. A version of it. Welcome to our chat program, Shakti Dharan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This story, I gather, is about it's like kind of like a migrant story, and with migration, some people like to fit into another different culture, while the others always bring with them various memories and stories from back home. Yeah, so what you have done is you have written a play about your mother's homeland, and it's about parents and children, and also the complexities of settling in a new land. Can you tell us about what made you write this story, and what exactly is it about?
Yeah. So, I'm Sri Lankan, and growing up in Australia, in Sydney, my mother didn't talk about Sri Lanka at all. Now, when I hit my late 20s, I felt a deep need to know about my history and my family's history. And I spent many years talking to Sri Lankans in Sydney, Melbourne, and around the world. Eventually went back to Sri Lanka. And I still have family there and talk to them as well. And I think Sri Lanka gets talked a lot about as a divided country. And talking to lots of Sri Lankans, I found a different story, which is one where the country was united in so many ways, within families, within businesses, communities, villages, and a story of how it became convenient in Sri Lanka for politicians to divide us, and how they weren't able to control the consequences of that, and how that eventually led to war. And I thought it was really important to tell that story, but what really led to Counting and Cracking happening after learning that was also learning that my great-grandfather was actually a politician and a champion for equality, unification, and over the course of his life gave up on the government as a place where Tamil people could be safe, and found it very hard to bring his Sinhalese and Tamil allies together to champion for unity in the country. And the fact that I didn't know about my family history, and that this was part of something my ancestors did, was a real shock to me. And I think so many of us children of our parents, who are the ones who made the decision to come from Sri Lanka to Australia, have kept so many of their stories and their secrets and their memories to themselves. And I think they do that for us because they want us to have successful lives in Australia and not to worry about the past. But what it means is that we don't really know who we are, first of all. And secondly, that it means that we can't learn from the wisdom of our elders. And their wisdom comes from the experiences they've been through. And my mother started opening up as we developed the play, and for the first time started talking about Sri Lanka. And I learned that we're a Tamil family, and I learned that what happened in 1983 when we left really broke her heart, and she dealt with that by not talking about it again. And in the course of doing this play, she's been able to talk about Sri Lanka again, and it's healed her relationship with her homeland. And she won't stop talking about it. And the play's been on in Sydney, and we sold out on opening night in 2019. It toured to the UK, had an incredible run there, and it's coming to Melbourne for the first time this year. And I've seen it have that effect on thousands of Sri Lankans now. It's started conversations again between parents and children. It's allowed us to understand who we are and for elders to open up again, and it's healed hundreds of people.
So it's partly your story as well, and you want to share it with us. What made you turn it into a play and not a book?
I think it's very important that we go on that journey together and that we experience it as real people in front of each other.
Okay.
It's an epic show.
Yes.
It is a big show. It's probably one of the biggest theatre shows that's been done in Australia in recent years. It has 16 actors who are from 6 different countries. It's probably one of the best ensembles of South Asian actors that's ever existed in the world. It's got 3 live Carnatic musicians. And between those 19 people, they play about 50 characters. And the story goes through several decades of Sri Lanka's history, as well as a storyline set in Australia in the present. So the play opens in Australia in the present day, between a mother and a son who fight a lot. They love each other by showing they fight, and then you feel like they're going to live their separate lives in Sydney. Then there's a phone call, and the phone call is from someone that the mother thought was dead, and he's actually alive. And it brings the past spinning back to her. And over the next 3.5 hours, we go back into her life as a young woman, and we learn about the decisions that led to her deciding to leave Sri Lanka. And we learn about the people who tried to stop the country descending into civil war. And it's kind of written in honor of those people, those leaders and journalists and everyday people who tried to stop that descent into civil war, and to remember that they existed, but also for us to find a way to remember our culture again here in Australia, and find a way to reconciliation and unity again. And so this epic journey only really works as a theatre piece. You know, it's about all 400 or 500 of us in the theatre every night, experiencing that journey together. And the play has been embraced by other Australians so wholeheartedly. So it's very interesting, you know. About a quarter of the audience each night usually is Sri Lankan, and then the rest are from all sorts of different cultures, but all Australian. And every night when I go see the show, there's always a Sri Lankan who comes up to me afterwards and says, "Why are so many other people interested in this show?" And I think it's really important that we've been a community in this country since the 50s. You know, the Burgers came in the 50s. We have a long history in Australia, and it's important that our story is told with as much power and resources and embrace from the Australian community as any other community story. And so that's a beautiful thing to witness and be part of.
That's right. And I think for other people, non-Sri Lankans too, they can relate to similar situations as migrants coming and settling down here. And they all bring their memories and stories to tell, and generational stories too that they want to pass on. So this is really
right. The Irish, the South Africans.
That's right.
People from the Middle East. You know, it's a long history of people finding refuge in Australia.
No, I think it's a fascinating story, and I think it's something that you know, especially the Sri Lankans, they will enjoy. And you're using all 3 languages, I hear.
That's right. So the play is in English, Tamil and Sinhala. It's also got a bit of Sanskrit in it, a bit of Arabic, and a bit of Yaraku Mata, which is an indigenous language from Arnhem Land. And that was very important to us. And so the reason we need 16 actors, and the reason they're from 6 different countries, that there's actors from Sri Lanka, India, Malaysia, New Zealand, Paris, is because of the language requirements as well as the age requirements. So, you know, there are roles in the play who only speak Sinhalese. There are roles in the play that speak Tamil. And what happens is another actor simultaneously translates that back into English. So, you know, for the Sri Lankan audience, there's lots of moments in the show where they get to be ahead of the rest of the audience, and they understand the joke before everyone else, or they understand the drama before everyone else. But it's a beautiful thing because we are, you know, Sri Lanka is a country of many languages. And to celebrate that by telling the play in many languages is in itself a decision, right? And it has its own symbolism to it.
Very good. So tell us, where is it going to be held at, and when does it start? And
so it's going to be on at the new theatre at the University of Melbourne. It's called the Union Theatre. There is parking at the site, so you can drive in and park. All the details are on the website. It's part of the Rising Festival, which is Melbourne's key international arts festival. It opens on the 31st of May and runs till the 23rd of June. So it's on every day except Monday. And it goes for 3 weeks. I must say though that what happened in Sydney was the community were worried about coming to the show. A lot of the community don't come to theatre. They weren't sure what to expect. And then when people came to the first few shows from the community, it spread like wildfire. And thousands of community members tried to buy tickets and it had already sold out. And so I think it's really important, especially the youngins who are listening to this, or those like yourself who are interested in our history and active about the connection we still have to our homeland, to talk to your friends, to talk to your cousins and aunties and uncles and try to convince them to come to the show with you. Because if it goes like it did in Sydney, by the time you might be interested in seeing the show could be sold out. And it's for Sri Lankans first and foremost, this show. That's the primary audience. And the show is richer when we're in the audience as well. And the conversations it starts and the healing it allows, it's a really wonderful thing to be a part of. It's also a celebration of us. It's a funny show. It's got all the different aspects of our culture in it. And it's just a great way to celebrate who and what we are.
And during the weekdays also, I guess it's in the evenings. Does it start early or what time?
I think the Tuesday show is at 6:30. So there's an earlier one. And on the weekends, there's matinees. So the Sunday show's at 5. And I think on Thursday and Saturday, there's a matinee at 1 p.m. So there's different shows at whatever time you need, you know. And quite often, a lot of the Sri Lankan community come to the Saturday matinee. Because it's like Saturday lunchtime. It's the easiest one to come to.
All right.
There's also a community discount code, and so I can give that to you, and you can include that in your emails if people ask you about the video.
How did that work? Is it for a group?
People from the Sri Lankan community get a little code when they book the tickets, and they get 20% off the tickets.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I will put all that details, and including the booking website. Is that the
Rising Festival?
Rising, is it? Okay, all right.
Yeah, or you could just Google Counting and Cracking Melbourne, that'll take you straight to the first link will be booking tickets, but it's at Rising Festival at the University of Melbourne.
Just lastly, what does the title mean, Counting and Cracking?
It's a quote from my great-grandfather. He wrote in one of his letters, "Democracy is the counting of heads within certain limits and the cracking of heads beyond those limits." And it's a play about how we have to nurture democracy. We can't take peace for granted. And in order to be, whether it's Australia or Sri Lanka, or many other countries around the world who are struggling with this, we have to be proactive about the connections we have with each other and with our state, with our government. I always say, when people ask me this question, the way I think about it is Australia can be a country which asks people to discard parts of themselves to fit in, or to bring their full selves to it to change what it can be. And how do we foster a culture where we can be our full selves in public life? And we can see that the person across from us on the street, who may seem different to us, actually has more in common with us than we realize. And so, the play really explores that and condemns the politics of division and tries to find a way back to us recognizing what we have in common with each other again.
Oh, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. I hope rest of our Melbourne community will also respond to that and get their tickets and come along. Thank you very much for all that information and detail, and I wish you all the best in all of your future endeavors as well. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We can't wait to bring it to Melbourne, and we can't wait to share with you.
Thank you. Shakti Dharan.
Vishwa Vahini